As much as I would like to say I was an avid reader growing up, I was not. I didn't like to read at all, but there were a couple of books I had to read that I actually enjoyed. Those are the books I will be rereading today. Every book I'm reading is like a middle grade like chapter book. I have 4 books I want to read in this video. When I first read them, I thought they were really long, and now I'm looking at them and well, they're short. The longest book is 270 pages. 2 of the books are well under 200 pages. The City of Ember is the book I'm most excited to read. I think I was in the 4th grade when I read this, but I might have been in the 5th. We read this as a class, and for several years I said this was my favorite book. This has been made into a movie, and I remember really liking the movie as well. And I just searched up the cast, and Saoirse Ronan is in it. Bill Murray is also in it, but Saoirse Ronan, aka Jo from Little Women, aka Lady Bird, her being cast as the main character makes me want to see it again. Last time I saw it, I was probably 10 or 11, so I don't remember like specific plot details, but I do remember like the general idea of the story. I'm pretty sure it's a dystopian book where the whole entire town is underground, but they only had enough supplies for however long, and then they started to run out of supplies, so then our main character is like, okay, well, I'm gonna get us out of here, and I'm gonna find us more supplies. I'm pretty certain that's the plot, but of course I won't know until I reread it. But I'll give you a better synopsis once I've like read some of this. This is not the cover I had when I read it, but I think this is the only cover available to get now. Without further ado, I'm gonna get started on the City of Ember. I really don't like you. Oh no! I didn't remember that part. There's just like an old guy like invalidating everything Lena's learning. She's like doing really smart things and being very proactive, and he's just like dismissing her like, oh no, it's probably nothing. He sounds so stupid right now. So stupid. This is making me so angry. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'm 113 pages into the City of Ember, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I think what I like most right now is probably the setting. Even though the idea of like an underground city is so cool, it's not really working out for them because they are running out of resources, and like their generator isn't really working as well as it used to, which definitely makes sense. They can't really leave their city because they don't have flashlights, so they can't see anything. They also just don't know if there's like other people alive outside of the city because they can't see other people. It kind of reminds me of us thinking that like aliens are real. Like obviously there is, but we haven't met them yet, so we haven't like confirmed. Well, NASA confirmed it, did they not? These people have never left Ember. They don't know anything outside of Ember, and like they have theories that there's other life out there, but it can't be confirmed. They also just don't know how to leave the city because they don't know that they can go up and that there is above ground, or if they're like going beyond city limits, it's just darkness and you can't see anything. Like, where are you gonna go? I truly just really love this setting and think it's such a cool idea because now they're like starting to run out of light. Like there's a whole bunch of blackouts, and the blackouts are becoming like more frequent and lasting longer, which is obviously an issue. And the people are scared and saying one of these days the lights are gonna turn off and they're never gonna turn back on. I guess they then just have to suffer, but I feel like no one's actively trying to really do much to get away from Ember. But they don't know better. Lena is a messenger, and she's becoming like very concerned about these blackouts, obviously. Everyone is. But she is like the main character, so we really can see that she specifically is really worried about it. Same with the other main character, Dune, but he wants to like work with the generator, and like he wants to somehow fix it. He thinks he can, and he thinks he can like save the city. But now that he's working in like the general area of the generator, he's starting to realize that, oh, like maybe I can't fix this. There was a set of instructions like locked in a box that was passed down from mayor to mayor, and Lena's great-great-grandfather was like the 7th mayor. Unfortunately, he did not pass along the box to the next mayor, and that's kind of why they're stuck down there. Of course, none of the characters were alive when the city was built, and so they don't realize that they were not supposed to live there for forever. Lena and Dune are really just trying to figure out how they can help and like save the City of Ember. I honestly still think this was so well written and there's so many great ideas within this book. I think there's a great mix of characters you don't like versus characters you do, and you really truly just want what's best for these kids and the people there. Honestly, this makes me want to read like more dystopian books. Like I feel like dystopian books are so good and I don't read enough of them. This book makes me want to watch the movie so badly, which I feel like is an accomplishment because I've read several books that have movies out where I finished the books and I didn't really care to see the movie. Let's see if it's streaming. I will be upset if it's not. It's not streaming for free. Are you serious? I'm gonna have to pay $4 to watch it. I wonder if I'm actually gonna like continue the series this time because like the first time I read it, I didn't continue the series. I actually think I read like the first chapter of the second book, but like nothing more. I'm not even halfway through this book, but I was planning on finishing it today. I'm gonna finish it today. I've set my mind to it. It's gonna get done. I will report back. She's 12? Tell me these main characters are 12?
Find a small excuse to leave. What's your excuse to make me?
I finished it, and I think it was a good favorite book to have back in the day. It still holds up. I genuinely had like a really good time reading this, and I really enjoyed it. I did remember the ending, but there was this whole entire like plot line that I had no recollection of, and then I was reading it, and I was like, wait, this like actually seems kind of serious. Why don't you remember that? I guess it's kind of fun to feel like you're experiencing it for the first time again. Even though obviously it's not the first time if you say again. One part of this book that I really liked is that our main character Lena gets a blue colored pencil and decides she's gonna like draw a city. She draws a skyline and colors the sky blue, and she's like, that's so weird. Could you imagine if the sky was blue? Because in her head it's black. She doesn't know any better, and the idea of the sky being blue is like such an outrageous idea to her. It's so foreign. I want to go to Ember. Like I know it's like this dystopian world that is running out of resources. You don't want to be there, but it could be a fun little tourist attraction. Maybe I'll visit like the underground Seattle, which I just saw TikToks about that not too long ago. Here's your little history lesson I learned from TikTok. So apparently Seattle was originally like below sea level, and so it would flood a lot. Then there's a big fire in Seattle, and they were like, oh well, we have to rebuild it anyway, might as well rebuild it on top of what's already there. So then they made Seattle taller so then it wouldn't flood all the time. And you can now like tour underground Seattle. That just sounds so cool. Like I want to go there. There's so many worlds that I've read about, and most of them are fiction, but I want to go there so badly. I usually don't want to live there because, you know, they're usually dangerous, but like the idea of being there seems so fun. Specifically like the Magnificent North from Once Upon a Broken Heart, or like Ellingham Academy from like Truly Devious, or the Spring Court, the Night Court. Off topic. City of Ember. This book slaps, even today. I would recommend it to friends. I feel like you can enjoy it at any age, and if you're any age, read it, right? So Holes is a pretty famous book. I read it when I was in the 5th grade. I don't know why I remember this, but our class split up into like 5 different groups, and each group picked a different book to read, and my group picked Holes. I remember really liking it at the time. I watched the movie as well. Once again, this is not the cover I had when I read it, but this cover was cheaper at Half Price Books, so it's what I have now. From what I remember, the main character gets in trouble and has to like go to some desert to like dig holes as like his punishment. All the kids have to just like dig a whole bunch of holes everywhere, and it's pretty much the extent of what I remember, but I remember liking it, so I can't wait to see what else happens. Anyway, I'm gonna read Holes. Oh my goodness. Okay, his name is Stanley Yelnats. And I was like, Yelnats is a weird name. I wonder what it is backwards. It's Stanley! On page 9, it tells you that Stanley Yelnats is the same forward and backward. I really thought I was like really smart for like figuring that out, and now, okay. I'm 100 pages into Holes and it still holds up. Like, it's a good book. Stanley is a good kid, but he's cursed with bad luck and he's arrested even though he didn't like do anything wrong. It was kind of a thing of wrong place, wrong time. He got to choose between going to jail or Camp Green Lake. He chose Camp Green Lake. Don't let the name fool you. The lake is dried up, so it's pretty much a desert in Texas. The kids at this camp have to dig really deep holes every day, no breaks, and it takes them hours and hours and hours to complete. I had to shovel snow yesterday and I'm sore, so I can't even imagine having to do this and how sore you would be. I don't know how Camp Green Lake is legal. Well, it's not. This is fiction. The only way to know how this book ends is to read it or look up spoilers. I'm gonna read it. I finished Holes and I think it still holds up. Personally, I'm so happy I didn't remember the ending because, like, you know, I'm rereading this book, but it feels like I was reading that for the first time. It is so deserving of all of the, like, accolades in here, and I feel like this is gonna be a classic one day. It's not quite old enough to be one, but I won't be shocked when it is one in, like, 25 years. According to Wikipedia, books have to be, like, 50 years to be a classic, and this one came out in 1998. But it really is just, like, a solid book that is great for, like, kids to read, and even adults. I for sure did not enjoy every book I had to read in school, but this is one that I was like, oh, that's a good one. I do remember, like, very specific scenes from the movie. And, like, when I was reading it, like, there was this one scene that's, like, towards the end, so I can't really say what it is without spoiling the book. But it's, like, so perfectly ingrained in my mind. And, like, when I was reading the scene in the book, it felt so nostalgic and so great. It's a little trip down memory lane. I'll take it. This video is kind of messing with, like, my reading stats for the year, because these are the first books I'm finishing, and they're all, like, kind of short, middle grade books. The way I have beef with some of these kids, they're kids, they don't know better, but I'm still like, that made me really mad. I also have beef with the adults, though. I feel like there was one adult that was, like, kind of okay, until he had, like, this moment that I was like, that is not cute. Why are you doing this? You're a grown adult saying this to kids. There's several characters I wasn't a fan of, but I feel like that makes you love the characters that you are supposed to like even more. The villains were not likable in any way, and I feel like a lot of times people are like, ooh, I kind of like the villains. This is my favorite villain, but they're just terrible people. So if you like the villains, I'm questioning everything about you. For the most part, they don't have any redeeming qualities, so. Now I'm gonna move on to the next one. Now, I read Among the Hidden when I was in the 6th grade. We read it as a class in English, and I remember being in that classroom because, like, one of my best friends was sitting behind me, and her whole desk, like, flipped over in that class, and it's a fun experience, and we're still friends, and we made friendship bracelets the other day. Let me show you. I don't have a picture of hers, but here's mine. Mine, of course, has Glenda on it, but hers is the other half circle, and it has Alphaba on it. But I remember being really excited about this book because my brother and my mom had read it. My brother's older than me, so he read it in class, and then he was like, Mom, this book is really good. You should read it. And then she read it. So then they both hyped up the book to me when I was, like, in middle school English. So then I read it and really liked it. I think it's, like, another dystopian world, which I guess that's kind of just what I was into at that age. Yeah, I still didn't read The Hunger Games until I was an adult. From what I remember about this book, I think it's like in this like world where you can only have like one kid, and if you have more, they have to hide. And unfortunately, this kid is not the oldest, so he has to like hide from everybody, and he like doesn't technically exist. Or he's not supposed to exist, but he does. I don't really remember much else from this, but I'm like pretty impressed with myself that I can remember what I can about these plots 10 years later. Now it's time to read it again though. I'm 84 pages into Among the Hidden, and I feel like I remember everything that I've read so far really well, but once again, I don't remember how it ends. I have an idea as to what happens, but I hope it's not like the true ending and that I'm getting it confused with like a movie or something. This is sort of like a dystopian world where it is illegal to have more than 2 children. I thought it was 1 going into this, but no, it's 2. So our main character Luke has to hide at like all times. Even in his own house, he can't go in certain rooms. He has to make sure that the blinds are always shut. He can't turn lights on when no one's home. He can't use a radio, TV, nothing, no power when no one is home. So basically, there's a new neighborhood being built right next to Luke's house. He's curious if there's other kids that have to go in hiding, so he's looking like through vents vents to see like what's going on in everybody's house, and he notices a face in a window. He then meets Jen, who is another third child. There's not a lot going on. I feel like this book is really short and not all that much plot happens in it. But that's okay. This seemed much cooler and more like The Hunger Games and Divergent when I was in middle school, but I would never make that comparison today. It's kind of mundane, but that's okay. This was a standout book to me in middle school, so I'm hoping like the end has like a lot of action or something more entertaining, but I guess that's okay if it's not the case. This book is only 150 pages, so I'm gonna try to finish it tonight. This whole series. But like, how did okay, of course it's the first book in a series, and like not everything's resolved, and I need to know how it's resolved. I'm just gonna Google it. I don't feel like this is a long series. That's what is it really a 7-book series? They're short books. Is it really a 7-book series? I don't know that I care enough to read the next 6 books, but I want to know how it ends. Okay, we're Googling it. Okay, I assumed that's how it would end, but I'm sure a lot happened between this and that. Holy moly! I thought I remembered part of the ending, but then I like convinced myself that I was getting it like confused with another movie. I wasn't. I didn't want it to happen, but it did, and I think it is like necessary and like sort of can teach children lessons, if you will. I see the value in it, but it feels like heavy to read. Like once you're older and you're like, oh wait, this is like actually really mature to read at like what, 11, 12. But at the same time, I liked it and handled it just fine then, and I feel like now I'm like more protective of myself at that age. When you're that age, you feel so old and like you can really handle like any subject, anything that's thrown at you, but like now I'm just like, oh, that's so young though. This book is very political. I feel like it goes on with like all the debates right now. Are books political? Yeah, they are. I feel like the first half of this book is kind of slow, but the end like picks up a lot. There's so much that happens in like the second half of it. Like what I was reading on the bus went absolutely crazy, but I like read it with a straight face. No one knew what was going on. Margaret Peterson Haddock's packed in so much in just 150 pages. Like, that's crazy. I really hope they like continue to read this in school though, because like I feel like it's a good story to read in school. I don't know if they still do. I feel like it's been a while. Next book. I know the Spiderwick Chronicles were an elementary school read, but I could not pinpoint what grade it was read to me in. I'm pretty sure this was an after recess sit around the teacher while she reads to us book. I could not tell you a single thing that happens in this book, but I vividly remember the covers, specifically the covers of books 4 and 5, and how me and my friend would like check them out at the library at school because we really liked it when our teacher read this one to the class, and so we read the rest of the series. You know, I'm actually not confident that I actually read those books. I feel like I just like had them in my possession and I looked at the pages without reading. That was a fairly common thing for me. But I would always listen to the books that were being read to us, and I do remember really liking this book even though I can't remember a single thing that happened in it. I can't pinpoint what grade I initially read this in, but this one has pictures and the others don't, so I assume it's like a lower grade. But you could tell me I read this in 4th grade and I would probably believe you. Not every page has pictures, which is unfortunate, but a lot of them do. One of the authors of this book is named Holly Black. When I saw this at the store, I was like, surely that's not the same Holly Black that wrote like The Cruel Prince. But it is. Like, I read this recently. And like I read this a long time ago, and then like going to the About Me section, says the Spiderwick Chronicles right there. My mind was blown, and I just had assumed there were like 2 Holly Blacks that were famous authors. I don't know. I then looked up her Instagram and saw that it's no secret she wrote Spiderwick because she posts about it all the time. Transition to Erin reading. That's scary. Spooky. I just finished the field guide and I think I'm a little underwhelmed by it. It honestly doesn't feel like a complete book. It only feels like the first couple of chapters of a bigger book. It's about 3 kids moving into a Victorian mansion where there's like secrets within the mansion. There's like a hidden room. There's some sort of creature living there and causing mischief. As a kid, I loved it. As an adult, it feels like it would only be like episode 1 of like a show. It is the shortest book I'm picking up, so maybe that is to be expected. I didn't do any updates halfway through the book because I didn't think enough happened to do an update. I really shouldn't be too judgmental because this book is written for kids. That is all I have for you today. I hope you liked this video. If you would like, comment, and subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. I will see you at some point or another. Bye!